The grandiose hills of Spa then became the technical twists of VIR. Now, it's time to tackle the high speeds and towering mountains of Austria here at the Red Bull Ring. Break out the lederhosen as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 11 Challenge class live here on Podium Esports. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aberton is on social media with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As we said, here at the Red Bull Ring, a popular track that is going to stand in a bit of contrast of what we had at the previous two races, DJ.
Yeah, just a little bit, Joe. This is the definition of a power circuit. Only 10 corners around this place, and really when you look at it, only pretty much two good overtaking opportunities going into AMS AG and down into Rauch. Those are going to be the two areas where you're really going to want to try to get those moves done if you can at all possible. The middle sector here, 5 through about 9. Consider that a little bit more of a technical section, but it's still very fast, very flowing, seat of your pants kind of driving. This may look like an easy circuit, but rest assured, it is a test for drivers and cars alike.
Indeed, and the first two events have now passed by, so we're starting to get into the thick of the season. And drivers are trying to rack up points as well as they can, but we had the same two winners for the first two challenge events. Will we see a three-peat as we take a look now at the qualifying? And Tom Crane is in his motion rig. This is always a joy to watch, and he's certainly got well, not only that, usually it's a three-screen setup that you see for these things, but he has got a motion rig and an impressive VR headset to boot.
Yeah, he's really going in there all out on the way that's going to play. Love to see that for him. Now watch him here as he comes down through the final two corners. These are two of the absolute most seat of your pants corners on the track. You've got to carry so much momentum through there and hope that nothing goes wrong. Tom going to be able to hold it out very, very well. The Mardi Gras region driver going to cross the line. P14 right now. Looks like that's where he's going to stay.
Yeah, did not improve on that final qualifying lap, unfortunately. Roger Claveau, in the meantime, looks like, okay, he did set one in there. I was going to say, it's easy to get off tracks around here, and that was his last lap, so that was critical for him, and that'll put him in his 16th.
Yeah, Casey McDonald currently 5th right now at the moment, able to improve on that last time of asking with a 32 time there. Let's see what Chris Schuessler is going to be able to do. The Riverside region driver in the number 61 machine going to cross over the line. Only 22nd right now, and that is not, it's going to be not an improvement.
Trying to see if we have anybody else who can set a time, and I don't believe there's anybody left. Alex Lidback, we're riding on board with, just finished his third and final lap. And I'm seeing a lot of laps, honestly, that have been deleted out here. Much like in real life, the track limits here can be strict. And like DJ was talking about, there are some very high commitment corners where it's going to be easy to step over those lines.
Yeah, and you're not wrong about the track limits here as well. This is an FIA Grade 1 circuit, which means there's plenty of that asphalt runoff on the outside to kind of tempt you onto these corners. Try to see if you're going to be able to take a little bit more than you think you should. Very, very easy to pick up those 0Xs around this place.
So looks like the grid is set, but we're just letting the rest of the qualifying session tick over here as Lidback brings it down into the infield portion of the lap. Very different from the first part of the lap where it's just all long straights, one after another with sharp corners. This one, a lot more sweeping through here and then up towards the final little bit, plunging downhill, down through Rint, and then the final turn back onto the main straight, where we're likely going to see a lot of drivers gather up those 1X incident points. But let's also remember, as we saw Alex heading into pit lane entry, that is going to be a difficult one as well in the midst of the racing and trying not to get a penalty. Let's go through our starting grid as Mehmet Karachai starts on the pole today, and Kevin Schultz will be next to him in second. George Poulos will start P3, followed by Olan Murphy in the 4th position. Casey McDonald will be P5, and he's got Jeremy Main to the outside of him there on row 3. Robert Galley will start in 7th, followed by Johan Nye in the P8 spot. Then it's Edward Trippett in 9th, and Alex Lidback rounding out your top 10.
Lisa Eskridge is going to start off in 11th, followed by Stacey Wada. Then it's Jeff Lashaway and Neil Beck there in row 7. Tom Crane will be 15th, followed by Roger Claveau. Then it's Aubrey Iyer and Art Schwartz in the row behind them. Donald Green is 19th. 20th is Dave Douglas, Jack Stevenson, and Chris Schuessler. Round out your 22-car grid.
So we'll have plenty out here. I mean, as we've seen when F1 visits, 22's going to keep them busy enough. It's not that long of a lap, so they might wind up seeing traffic earlier than you would expect around here. The good news is there's definitely spots where you can get by that traffic, but there's also going to be places where it will certainly be tricky as they are now getting ready to grid up. And it is slightly warm as well on the track itself.
Yes, it is. About 99 degrees Fahrenheit here on the surface. That's going to make things, well, a little bit interesting for the drivers, as you can imagine. Going to make things a little bit more difficult as things get up to temperature. Probably means for a lot of these drivers, they're not going to have to worry about tire warming nearly as much, but they are going to have to watch out for overcooking the tires at different points in the running.
So they've got them all out and ready. I think we should be taking off shortly. There we go. Pace car is on its way. Event number 3 for these drivers. They've now gotten a chance to really get acclimated to one another. And can they keep it clean out on the track? As actually the challenge class of all things, interestingly, has been one of the cleaner ones out there. Drivers making sure to be careful as they don't want to raise the ire of the stewards or run into any sort of penalties for themselves that might keep them from racing later on. They're all here to learn. This is where a lot of the drivers are just starting to cut their teeth and kind of getting themselves up to speed. So who will be able to claim one at the Red Bull Ring as they come off the final corner? Karachai now has control, waiting for the signal from the flag stands. And he's waiting quite a bit of time. There it is. Green flag is out as he finally heads off up towards Lauda. He gets a pretty good jump over Kevin Schultz. And we got a car into the wall in the background before we even get to turn 1.
Yeah, that's Iwata and Urbesh farther back in the field. I think just a little bit of miscommunication there coming up and over the start line. But now, as we watch, Karajay going to be able to get a good jump here on Kevin Schultz as the draft comes into play.
All right, then it's up towards the braking of Remus here. One of the popular places to try and overtake, a little bit wide for a couple drivers. Got to be careful there coming off of that hairpin. That sausage curve can be nasty. And then it's another long run down towards Schlosskold.
Yes, it certainly is, and this is a primary overtaking opportunity, but not seeing any out of the front right here, going for that move. Everybody being pretty calm, pretty cool and collected, staying in line here as they run. Not seeing a lot of super dangerous moves going down into Schlosskold.
Now, the good news is, despite the little melee at the start, everybody looks to still be running here, and they do have a spare car, so that's the good news. If they run into trouble like that, they can get back out on the track after they take that car in pit lane. Now, unfortunately, it may compromise their pit strategy, though. But as we watch them crest over the hill, it looks like Karachai is doing a pretty good job holding back the rest of the field. He's got himself a gap of nearly a second already.
Yeah, Karachai's got 0.7 of a second, and crucially here, Kevin Schultz has got a gap of about 1 second over Poulos at the moment. Meanwhile, Olin Murphy, they're in 4th place. He's the one under fire here at this point, so it looks like Jeremy Main may even go for a move coming up into turn 1.
And on the left-hand side of your screen, that's the battle for 12th that we can see. Lashaway holding off Claveau and Crane currently. In fact, Crane took a little bit of a look, but now we're checking in on that battle you were talking about. Maine to the inside of Casey McDonald as they get ready to break into Remus. Sometimes the inside is not the place you want to be, and McDonald proves it so as he's able to pull ahead.
Yeah, able to pull ahead there, and that was really all set up by Casey McDonald just being a little bit on the back foot. Started that run a little bit farther behind. Olin Murphy going into turn 1 was a little too aggressive with it, tried to bite off a little bit more than he could chew, and there you see Casey McDonald able to take advantage. Oh, spin in the back. It looks like that's going to catch a couple people tripping, and Galeas there looked like they've been both caught out.
So yeah, I think that was Robert just having a little bit of a spin, unfortunately. We'll check on that a little later as we're side by side between Lashway and Lidback. Lashway manages to get ahead. Eskridge, though, overtaken by Johan Nye as they'll now swing their way through Verts and back up the hill. Good run here from Lashway, but it's tough to pass through Rent. I don't think he's going to be close enough.
Yeah, that's really not an overtaking opportunity in any stretch of the imagination, Joe. It's a brush-breaking corner. You want to carry as much momentum through there as you can. Oh, but it looks like the 7 there under a little bit. That's Lashway just kind of checking up, coming down into A1. And now we've got some side-by-side.
Lidback got a much better run coming off the final corner, looking for the braking into Lauda. Brakes much earlier, though, and it looks like Lashway will hold on to 9th, but now it is Claveau's turn to be all over the back of Lidback instead.
Yeah, and this is the exact problem that we saw with Jeremy Main a little bit earlier. You get too aggressive going into turn 1. That throws you off coming up the hill and up into turn 3. It's much better to be a little bit calmer, a little bit more selective in your moves, and then go for the overtake into 3.
Unfortunately, it looks like Galais finds himself with a black flag due to that spin and contact a little bit earlier. Ooh, up the inside. Crane's thinking about it once again on Claveau into Schlossgold. Can't quite get the overlap into the corner. Does get another good run coming off of it, but he's going to be on the outside by the time they hit Rauch.
He's going to be on the outside, and that's not the place you want to be. You can carry a little bit more momentum there, but that's normally in higher downforce cars. The GTEs, maybe even the GTPs around here, trying to go too wide in a GT3 style car, not going to work out all that well.
Yeah, going to be pretty difficult as here we check in on Lashway being chased by Lidback still, but it looks like Lashway is getting himself well clear by this stage. Let's not forget, it's not just the qualifying that you need to be worried about those incident points here. They have incident limits at 17. You'll get a drive-through, and then every 5 after that, you get another drive-through. So those that have had spins and contact with one another, that's going to add up very quickly.
Yeah, it certainly is. They're going to have to be watching that here at this point, Joe, because it's so easy to want to push over those limits and try to absolutely extract everything you can out of a lap, but you've got to use those strategically. I think we'll see a little bit later on in the pro classes as we kind of rise up through the ladders here. We may see some drivers using those off tracks in a strategic way to try to maybe gain a little bit of an advantage on those around them, but as for right now, I think it's all about just holding on tight.
We're watching Aubrey Ayer for a little bit there, but we've jumped back up in front of them once again to Crane chasing on Claveau. Those two have been close to one another for quite some time. Oh, and a spin just behind them that we saw on screen. That was Stevenson, and it looks like he's going to be run into by both Art Schwartz and Dave Douglas. In fact, that was very similar to what we saw with Galais.
Yeah, and I really think that's just getting the throttle down a little bit too early coming down into Schlossgold. Let's take a look at the replay here at this point. Stevenson comes down the hill, good line coming in, just catches a little bit of the curb. That's going to unsettle the car ever so slightly and just got onto the throttle a little bit early. These cars do have traction control on them, but if you're too aggressive with it, it will not help. Let's watch again here from Dave Douglas's perspective. Really nowhere to go. He just kind of had to slam on the binders and was forced to get contact.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing he might have a single screen set up too, because didn't look like he had much time to react to that with the way he didn't slow down all that much coming around the corner. Meanwhile, coming up into Remus once again, side-by-side action as they battle for fourth place rather. Casey McDonald inside of Olan Murphy. Jeremy Main in the popcorn position just behind them, trying to pinch him down. Murphy in that bright green dinosaur car is going to try and keep McDonald from being able to swing wide into the corner, but he will be able to get ahead of him. Casey McDonald moves into fourth.
Yeah, good move there from McDonald. I thought for a second we were going to see a little bit of a crossover from Murphy, but just carried a hair too much speed coming down into that right-handed hairpin. Wasn't able to get the car rotated in time to be able to make that work. Jeremy Main, that we ride on board with right now, though, he's going to be praying for that battle up ahead to continue here at this point. The longer that goes on, the better chance that Jeremy's going to have to be able to put himself into consideration to maybe gain 2 spots.
Also, Neil Urbesh has been given a black flag, so he'll have to go and serve that at some point here within the next 4 laps. Off the corner, pretty good run from Jeremy. Don't think he's really got a chance up here into Lauda unless he tries to be aggressive, and it seems to me that'd be too early for that. I think it'd be better if he set himself up for the run to Remus.
Well, he may be setting himself up here at this point. At least Jeremy, a good...
As they come out of Remus now, that's a better exit for Main, and so he is going to find himself in 5th. Nice move. Unfortunately for Olan Murphy, that means that it's, I believe, 2 positions lost within 2 laps, so kind of slipping backwards at this stage. In fact, down 2 from where he started. Aubrey Iyer going slow for some reason. Not sure what that is. That looks to be out of Remus. And let's take a look at the replay, see what exactly went on here. And another case of just maybe too much speed. Oh, there's that sausage curb right at the exit, DJ. It seems that you don't want to put that tire over the top of it. So as they plunge back down through the last couple corners once again, looks like the battle still on as Olan's not given up on Main quite yet, even though he's been overtaken, staying within striking range and heading up towards the braking of Lauda. He's not going to be able to do anything here, but maybe he's picked up a few tips from Jeremy on that last lap when he got that great run. Doesn't look like he's got the speed quite at this point, but he'll have more racing to try and make something happen. 30 minutes are left. We're only a quarter of the way through this race so far, so there is still plenty of time to try and get back up on the horse and try and get back to those top 5 positions at this stage. Top of the field is seeming to spread out somewhat. It's all more than a second apart amongst, it looks like, the top 4, DJ.
Yeah, it's starting to really spread out here at this point because the drivers up front aren't really having to worry too much about any attack from behind. They're able to just start running their own laps and doing what they need to do to be in good position. And I think that increased gap, that's just going to keep helping and keep pushing them ahead more and more.
Battle for 8th on our screen. That's Lisa Eskridge with Jeff Lashaway behind, and then Alex Lidback. So kind of a 3-car battle starting to form as they hit the compression coming through Vert, and then it's back up the hill a little bit here over a little crest amongst the trees here. One of the more interesting things as well, the way this track kind of opens up for part of it, and then you go kind of back into the woods here with all these pine trees all around. Very kind of what you imagine, I would think, of a lot of Austria.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there's a reason why we always talk about this being sort of a picturesque track. It's that run up into the mountainside and then back down into the hills. It's really, really quite incredible to be able to watch. Lisa Eskridge, though, here in the number 7 machine. That's Lashaway in the number 7, chasing down on Lisa Eskridge. This, the battle for P8 right now. Look out the back of that Heart of Dixie region driver as she tries to move her way back up through the field. She started 11th, up 3 on the day. This is a good run for Lisa.
Jeff's not doing too bad either. He's gained 4. The biggest mover so far is Donald Green, who's gained 6 positions from where he started in 19th. Not too shabby. Some of those could have been due to the penalties. Oh, and Poulos is off up ahead of them and dropping down the order. This is at that same corner, heading through Schlossgold, almost backs into poor Johan Nye, who thankfully was heads up. But my goodness, it's seems like Calamity Corner today is turn 4.
Yeah, this is just where we're seeing all of these problems. Let's ride on board with the Metropolitan New York driver all the way over onto the curbs. And I think that was the problem, Joe. Just a little bit too much speed, a little bit too aggressive coming off of the curbs there. That can unsettle the car a little bit. If you try to brake on those curbs or you're too aggressive with the way you throw it through the corner, it can throw you off a little bit and give you a little bit of a bad position. And I think that's exactly what happened to Poulos there.
3 separate incidents into Schlossgold, and all 3 of them oversteer, winding up in a spin so far. But definitely slightly different results as to who's had damage and who hasn't out of that one. At least we do still have all 22 drivers out on track, although a few have made visits to pit lane, either for a spare car or dealing with penalties. Good run from Poulos, who we're still watching on the back of Lashaway. So he's definitely gotten back on it very quickly. He's got an opportunity to make up at least one of those spots right away, but he decides not to be aggressive up into Remus, maybe setting himself up for the runoff. Oh, he gets into the back of Lashaway, who has to pick it back up.
Yeah, and I think there for Poulos, that is just a faster car, not anticipating the number 7 and the lower corner speed there that he had. That wasn't intentional. That wasn't like a bump and run type of situation. That was just a miscommunication and a misjudgment there from Poulos. But look at this fight back from Lashaway down to the inside, going through Schlossgold.
Poulos is making him work for it, though, round the outside, and he's still alongside, down to the inside of Remus. But look at Lashaway. He manages to pull ahead, and he's got that 8th spot right back.
He's got it back. That was a brave move indeed for Lashaway. And now Poulos goes off into the gravel coming up through Power Horse.
Oh, that's going to lose him 2 more positions immediately. Lidback and Crane scream on by. It's been a miserable couple of laps here for George Poulos in that 192 machine. He is within the pit window if he wants to try and dive in now, but I don't know if he has anything particularly wrong with the car. Maybe just is a little rattled, but now it's between Crane and Lidback instead. Watch them as they head up towards Lauda. Lidback, though, doesn't go to defensive and doesn't need to.
No, doesn't need to at this point. So, all right, here they go. Lidback now the one who's going to be a little bit on the back foot at the moment, trying to see if he's going to be able to get anything to play. As we watch Crane here trying to pull in, trying to see if they can go. Nothing at the moment.
Still, it is tight in here. They've got Tom Crane and George Poulos now starting to get close behind them once again, and then in the background, that's Roger Claveau, who might find himself a part of this multi-car battle that has been just filling up, and unfortunately, it's a big mistake there from Lashaway, and he is going to lose the spot to Lidback, who picks it up immediately, not wasting time, almost outbraking himself. Thought Jeff was going to get into the back of Lidback for a brief moment. Let's hope that we can maybe squeak something in before this starts to erupt once more, because it's time again for PCA Sim Racing Tech Tactics Live. After Jeff Williams told us previously about how drivers' classes are defined, tonight we will discuss how drivers' metrics are calculated. Stephen Shen, PCA Sim Racing Timing and Scoring Manager, and Jim Huth, PCA Sim Racing's EDE Manager, are our guests. Guys, can you expound upon this a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us on. So just to speak briefly about the metrics, this is something we came up with in order to balance the classes after each season. Prior to using metrics, what we typically did was, folks at the top, 3 or 4 or 5 would move up a class, and that worked okay when the league was smaller, but as it's grown over the years and gotten much larger, that just eventually pushes everyone to the top, and classes don't remain balanced. So that's where metrics were born. So for the metrics, basically what we do is we look at the best 4 of the last 8 races for each driver, and this could span multiple seasons, actually going all the way back to season 7 now. So, if you run 2 races in season 11 and 6 from season 10, we'll pick the best 4 of those last 8 races, and so forth, all the way back to season 7. We basically look at the average pace of drivers. So we rank them from fastest average pace to slowest. And the reason we use average pace rather than fast pace is we feel it's more consistent on how a driver does over the course of the race rather than like a hero lap. and then we divide it into quartiles. So quartiles, like the top quartile being pro, the next quartile being club, and so on and so forth. And from that, there's other adjustments made. So, based on the quartile you're in your current class, we propose what class you should be in based on your quartile, but then we also look at, how far off you are from the fast pace in terms of standard deviation there, as well as like your penalties and whatnot. And I can let Jim kind of talk more about that.
Sure, thank you. That's where the EDE comes in. Basically, when we're reclassing drivers into the peer group, the job of the driver's education department is to look at each driver independently, because we're a person-based group and social club rather than just competitive. We all want to race with each other. We all want to have a good race. But at the end of the day, once Steven and his team get all this math together, he then puts it to the education department. We then take all these drivers and we note who's going to move. Every single one of these drivers is looked at by the entire crew of 10 or 15 of us, maybe 20, and we then look through and see that that driver's personality matches the data, and if it doesn't, we've got no problem stepping in saying, well, that driver had a gear crash or what have you. And we can, start to skew that a little bit and know that a driver is more competitive. They'd rather be in the bottom of a fast group than the top of a slower group, just based upon their nature. And do they drive in real life? Do they own a race car? What's their experience? All of this is a hands-on approach. So we really go through the data for the first part of it, and then we go through personalities for the rest, and then we contact each and every one of them, and that is moving a class, and we explain to them how and why and any questions, and we support them in the move. It's really to keep the peer groups together, and as you can see by the qualifying and the racing, we're pretty good at doing this. We're about 5 years into it, and we've developed a pretty good system that we're pretty proud of.
I have to say, I can tell it's been refined, and like you said, it looks like it works fantastic. Thank you, both of you, for coming in. That was Stephen Shen and James Huth to talk us through Tech Tactics. You can learn more about PCA Tech Tactics events and Tech Tactics Live, PCA.org, or you can view prior live presentations at youtube.com/Porsche Club of America. So big thanks to them for coming in and joining us. And as you've been seeing on the screen as they were talking, that battle for ninth just won't go away, DJ. Jeff Lashaway has had these cars breathing down his neck.
Yeah, he certainly has, and Lashaway's done a great job of trying to be able to hold him off here. Crane and Claveau absolutely putting the screws to him here at this point. But Joe, as we cross over into the halfway point of this race, I think it may be time, if I'm Crane, if I'm Claveau, to dive down into pit lane, maybe think about making the pass that way.
Exactly. If you're having too much trouble, might as well try and mix it up. And it looks like Poulos is going to take that theory as he has pitted in, checking to make sure he doesn't have a penalty. Yeah, looks like he got in clean. Oh, in the meantime, on screen, up into Lauda. That's a tough one to make a pass. And Crane, oh, he gets hit around as Claveau was not expecting him to be slow off the corner, and Tom finds himself facing the wrong way.
Again, that is a situation of just not really getting the track. Whoa, that was a close one there. Yes, this dive into Lauda may look appealing here, but the way the camber works on the corner and the straightaway, it's just not going to play out. And unfortunately there, for that 864 of Tom Crane, just gets spun around as a result of that, really through no fault of his own. Just a wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, man, that was close stuff. And then just unfortunately going to get into the back of him, spin him the rest of the way around. I wouldn't be surprised if they handed out a penalty to poor Roger on that one. He was a little caught out, but I think I'd say he had a good amount of time to try to react to it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good enough amount of time to do it, but I've got to imagine that he probably thought that there was going to be a little bit of a different run there for him. Nevertheless, not what he wanted to have happen by any stretch of the imagination, and a very rough run for both drivers.
Absolutely. And back to Murphy now. I was mentioning before that he has been doing a good job holding on to Maine. And yes, he's lost a little bit. It's about a second and a half off, but he hasn't been dropping super quickly. So got to give credit to the 19 to at least keeping Jeremy honest, because if there's any sort of slip up from that yellow 55, he'll be back into the clutches of Oland very quickly.
Yeah, he's got to be careful as that attack from behind will be certainly there quickly. Tom Crane coming back down into pit lane. I think that's a good call for Tom. Just kind of do a little bit of a mental reset here at this point. Get the fresh fuel put in the car and get yourself back out on track. I like that call if you've been in an incident.
Absolutely. So he'll take that fuel and get back out. Poulos went by him. So George is now up into 14th, the highest driver to have pitted at this stage. And we've been checking in every once in a while on Karachai, Schultz, and McDonald. But Mehmet has honestly been continuing to run away from Kevin Schultz. It's now at about 2.5 seconds between them. And the real shocker here is Casey McDonald, who won the first two events, is not only in third, it's that he is 14 seconds behind the leader right now.
Yeah, that's very surprising to me, but also think about this, Joe. This is a wildly different track than compared to Spa, then compared to VIR. I mean, we're talking about two pretty technical tracks at that point. Really have to feel that out. This is a power circuit, and it doesn't agree with everybody. I'll tell you, for instance, I can never find that rhythm. I can never find that flow around here. It just doesn't suit my driving style, and I think that may be the case here for Casey McDonald, just not feeling it, and that's a perfectly valid thing for a driver to feel.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he'll be looking for tips and seeing where he can maybe get a little bit more speed and continue to fight for those top positions. But third won't do him too much harm in terms of the championship for Series 11. Still watching this battle between Lashway and Claveau for that ninth spot. That just does not seem to subside. Even when other cars leave the battle, there still seems to be one that keeps going on between these cars, although we don't know. Oh, actually, we do know. I just saw it now. Roger Claveau has been given a black flag, so he won't be a part of this battle for much longer.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to come down into pit lane here at this point, having been given that black flag for the contact, so that's going to throw things off for Claveau, and that is effectively going to put him out.
Still waiting on the majority of the field to pit in. Only 15 minutes left. Should see probably most of them start to pit in here pretty soon. With this being such a stop-start track, it does suck up fuel. As we watch now back in the battle for 17th. That's Tom Crane after his pit stop. Trippett has also been in the pits, but I don't know if that is a scheduled stop because that was 13 laps ago. In fact, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I don't think that was scheduled. I think that was probably as a result of coming in early here. Claveau going to come down into pit lane here at this point right now, though.
So he is taking his pit stop when he is taking his black flag, which means he will probably have to either come in again or he's going to be held a long time there in his stall for the penalty. But yeah, that early stop for Trippett, that would have been on lap 3. I think that is definitely not within the pit window. But, oh, and Kevin Schultz is slow. He's being caught by Casey McDonald, and we're checking in on that now. Looks like Schultz, unfortunately, maybe had an issue somewhere around Schlossgold or into Rauch, and now he is under pressure.
All right, let's see. Take a look at the replay here, see if we can figure out what happened to Kevin Schultz. This is coming down into the corner. Just too much speed. And that pendulum of the rear engine Porsche that we've talked about a couple of times coming back to bite him. Love what I saw there, though, out of Schultz, backing it out into the gravel trap to be able to get his way back forward. That is a way to make sure he is not going to be a problem to any of his competitors around him.
Absolutely. And, well, Casey McDonald certainly likes the extra time that bought him, because you can see how close he is to the back of the green number 10 as they approach up to the second braking zone into Remus. Not close enough, at least at this stage. I see Alex Littback heading past us in pit lane, though. So the number 11, our latest to take his service. Much better exit for Casey McDonald over Kevin Schultz now as they climb over the hill.
Yeah, he's going to poke his nose to the inside here a little bit. I don't think he's got the full run to make this a pass down into Schlossgold, but let's see if he decides to do anything with it. No, he's going to stick in line. A little bit of a tighter apex there, clobbering the curbs a little bit more for that number 12 of Casey McDonald. I don't think he's in full attack mode here at this point, Joe. I don't think he's necessarily looking for the move, but what he is looking for is a chance to push Schultz into a mistake.
Little bit off the apex there for Kevin, so there's a small mistake out of him, and they are approaching lap traffic. Robert Goulet's kind of up in front of them, although I think, no, Robert actually has been into the pits just recently, so that's why he's back there now being caught by these two. So maybe now is a good time for Kevin to consider a pit stop.
Yeah, I think it might be as well, as it may be a good call for him to come on in. Not going to do it here at this point, though. Casey's going to stay out on track. Goulet's up ahead of them. Oh, I've got to be really worried here if I'm Kevin Schultz that this traffic is going to slow me down a little bit. This is going to be absolutely nerve-wracking for Schultz.
On the flip side, could it maybe give him a little bit of a tow down the straight? Because Robert is going to be right in front of him as long as he gets a good launch off of Remus here. And no, he is going to pull off to the side. So Kevin will not get the benefits, but hopefully this means he won't be held up either.
Yeah, hopefully it means he won't be, as there he goes, but there Goulet's going to get out of the throttle there, allow both Schultz and McDonald to get on through. Good call there from Robert, but it's not going to be enough right now for McDonald to close down that gap, and it looks like at the moment that's going to be a little bit of a better breakaway for Schultz. He's going to gain a couple of tenths of a second.
Casey had a horrible run coming off that right-hander, and that's going to cost him quite a few tenths up to Kevin Schultz. I think we just had a pit stop from Aubrey Iyer. Yep, looks like Aubrey is back out onto the track now, returning in 12th place. Poulos still our driver with the highest track position after taking a pit stop there in 10th place. So there we see him on screen right now. George's going to pick up a few more when other drivers pit. Not sure how many here, but definitely will find himself in a better position. Oh, and Schultz and McDonald have now pitted at the same time.
I'm not sure I like that call necessarily for McDonald. If he wants to try to get on past him, I would have said do the opposite of what he's thinking of doing here at this point, but clearly going to come in at the same time. Maybe Casey's been able to save a little bit of fuel here.
Yeah, so Karachai and Murphy will stay out. Looks like Eskridge also will go an extra lap. Lashway pits in. And we're just now waiting for Lashway and Green. They'll be the last ones. Looks like Green will pit and Lashway will as well. So three cars, only three cars, will be managed to make it to lap 20 here.
All right, so only three cars going to make it to lap 20, and huge news here for Casey McDonald, about a full second and a half longer than anybody else down into pit lane, or at least longer than Kevin Schultz down into pit lane, so that's going to throw him off a little bit, and that's going to put him on the back foot.
Yeah, when you said that, I was looking through, and Jeremy Main was almost 13 seconds in pit lane for some reason. Not sure what the reason is for that, but that definitely has hurt him. Ooh, that was really pushing the limits there for Mehmet Karachai, who dipped his wheels into the grass on pit entry, but thankfully did not spin the car.
Yeah, it did not spin the car here at this point. Now we watch these drivers as they come on in. This is Karachai coming on in, and Urbesh, I believe, was the other one that we saw, the 277 stopping behind him.
So Murphy is also going to follow, and yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the end of the pit window for everybody. I don't think we'll see anybody manage to go farther than this, and we're well into this race. Only 8 minutes left, so very good fuel mileage for many concerned. And yeah, Lisa Eskridge now heading in just as Karachai is out, and there is absolutely nobody near that number 78. He is basically home free from here.
Yeah, he's home free at this point. He is going to be in clear sailing. 13 seconds the gap between himself and Kevin Schultz. Schultz, meanwhile, has about 2 seconds between himself and Casey McDonald.
And Olon Murphy is going to be well behind Casey. Where is Jeremy Main, though? Looks like he'll be clear of him. So that'll give Olon the 4th spot, at least for now. So now it is going to be a fight on the track. You can't pull any sort of tricks with pit lane from here. If you need to catch and pass someone, you got to do it the old way.
Yep, you're just going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, as you say there, Joe. Going to have to see if you can make anything else work out here at this point. Battle's really starting to dissipate through the field as we get farther and farther on into this race.
Remember, we were talking about George here and his early pit stop. He comes out in 7th, which I think is still a little better than where he was before. So that wound up looking like it's a good call. But he's down 4 from where he began. Some of that due to the spin that he had early in the race. He's still got to catch up to Johan Nye, who's about a 1.5 seconds up in front of him. We're going to ride on board with George to see what it looks like around this beautiful circuit.
Right there, we see Poulos trying to close in on the drivers in front of him in the form of Johan Nye, 1.5 seconds up the road. Ahead from Johan right now, that is a lapped car, I believe, of Dave Douglas. But watch this elevation change here, Joe. Coming down into this corner, this is what I'm talking about. So very easy to carry, a little bit too much momentum. And that's partially because of the camber on the road, and also because you're going downhill, and momentum naturally carries more at that point.
So that's a lapped car that he's going by. That's Dave Douglas, who is also letting Johan by just in front of him. So that wasn't for position. But that last lap, Johan did a 33.4, and it was a 33 flat for George. So, yeah, he is reeling him in, hand over fist.
Yeah, really making a big move here at this point. Let's see if he's able to close up a little bit more. Aubrey Ayer back down into pit lane here at this point.
It's a black flag, actually.
Oh.
So, not...
Yeah, incident.
Oh, man, that is unfortunate to see. So that'll send the 64 farther down the order once again. Down to only 16 cars left on the lead lap, I believe, and that might be 15 here soon, because, yeah, Mehmet is coming up towards the front stretch right now. Meanwhile, this is the battle for 6th on your screen. Johan Nye versus George Poulos. Last lap, I said it was 4/10 quicker. If it's another 4/10, that should mean George will be within about 2 to 3/10 behind Johan by the end of this lap.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer here at this point for that to be able to get into position. There is 8/8 of a second right now. That is going to be enough for the draft to start coming into range down these long straightaways.
And I believe, let me double check, I think they're on medium downforce this time around. They were on high downforce the first 2 races. So this changes, maybe that's why we're seeing so many spins. That changes the handling of the car slightly as they've taken some of the grip away.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a big, big reason for that for these drivers. That's not out of the realm of possibility here that could be the problem for them.
Checking in on that number 78 now with a mere 4 minutes left to go. Maybe about 3 laps left here, 2 or 3. I think it is 3 laps as he heads his way out through Vert and getting ready to crest the hill once again. 12-second gap down to Kevin Schultz. Probably because of Kevin's little mishap that he had a little bit earlier in the race, but going very wide there. Hopefully Mehmet has plenty of incident points left in his pocket.
Yeah, hopefully he is able to hold that out a little bit more. He is at 9 incidents right now, so that should be relatively okay. Yeah, he should be good to go for another, 2 laps here at this point?
By the way, Alex Lidback back in 9th has a single incident this whole race. Excellent stuff there from the number 11. And he's up 1 position from where he started. So it's not like he's puttering around in last place. He is well halfway up through the field and is actually on a net gain as we check in with him there in the bottom of your screen. But let's see. What do we have left here? We still got a little ways to go before we get back to the line to get a feel for how much time we have left, but I think it will most certainly be 2 laps once he crosses that line. So let's check in with Art Schwartz now. Now that is Donald Green just in front of him. And Donald's is fighting for 12th position. Both of them are definitely big gainers here today. Donald is up 7.
Yeah, up 7 here at this point, and that is one of our biggest movers, if not, that is the biggest mover in the field at this point. So let's give him some credit in that number 71 machine.
It looks a little tentative, though, coming through the last 2 corners, and Art Schwartz gathered him up very quickly as they cross the start-finish line once again. He's going to have just a couple laps to try and do this, although they're close to being lapped in the far background. That was Karachai coming across, and yes, I can confirm he crossed the line now with 2 to go as we continue to follow this battle.
All right, 2 to go here at this point for Karachai as they come across. Now, I've got to be thinking here, maybe if I'm in this position, I want Karachai to be able to get on by me, not have to run an extra lap. Oh, big move for the 82 coming through the corner. That's going to put Schwartz on the back foot.
Yeah, in fact, he caused Edward Trippett to check up, and now Ed has a great run. He's going to have to look around the outside, though, because Art's going to take the defensive move, breaks later, and comes back to the racing line. That was some confidence right there, and they'll carry on.
Yeah, they'll carry on there at that point. That tells me that is a driver that knows exactly how he is feeling and how he is with his car. He is together.
So these 3 all fighting for position, essentially. This is a battle for 12th place. We're down to only 15 cars left on the lead lap. A little wide there from Art Schwartz once again. This time, Ed's not going to sit around. He's going to go around the outside, and this is going to be brave. If he can finish this up, he can chop down if he wants to. He's clear, and he's got it. Trippett moves to 13th.
Oh, good move there from Trippett to be able to get that to play. Just confidence inspiring as he ran.
And behind them, this man comes up to the white flag. Mehmet Karachai now has just 1 more lap to go. Couldn't quite take wins in those first 2 events at Spa and VIR. Casey McDonald was the one holding those down, but today it's looking like there is nobody to challenge that number 78.
No, I think he is in a league of his own here today. A 12.5-second gap on the front of the field. This is Mehmet's day in the sun. But we've got to keep our eyes fixed here because Trippett may be looking for another one.
And they still have to come around for the white flag themselves. If they're not going to get lapped here, I don't think they can afford to get lapped because it's a little bit too far back for our leader to catch up to them at this point. Coming down to the braking, Green is under threat. It's been big moves here from Ed to try and make up for some early issues. Remember, he's lost 4 from where he began.
Yeah, he is really going to have to put himself in the position here to try to hold on as much as he can here as he goes. Trippett wants to try to pull on and maybe only lose 3 on the day. The way he's running, I think he's got a good run here on Donald Green.
He'll definitely have a chance before all is said and done because they're going to get that white flag here pretty soon with just 2 more corners to reach that and a whole more lap for him to try and set him up with a good run and outbrake him into a corner. But Karachai, who we now focus on, brings it downhill through the last 2 turns. It is not going to be the biggest gap that we have seen, but it is definitely a healthy one. Mehmet finally stands atop the podium with a win here at the Red Bull Ring.
Great run there for Mehmet. Flash of the headlights for the number 78. He is going to be feeling good, and he has got every right to.
Back to that battle for 12th position. Donald Green, can he hold on under pressure with Edward right on top of him? Coming up into the braking for Remus. Doesn't look like there's an opportunity quite yet for that 444, but he's trying to stay within range. Oh, great exit by Donald. He puts himself once again at arm's length.
All right, that could be the difference maker here at this point. That could be all it is because look at that, diving down into the next best overtaking opportunity. It looks like Green's got it covered.
Well, with Trippett's denim liveried car. It doesn't look like he got the memo about the later hosing around here. Let's see if that will cost him a position. Will he be less focused on fashion and more focused on making that overtake? Donald Green trying to hold ahead here in the last few corners. These are tough places to pass. Will he defend coming up into Rent, or will Ed be able to sneak one up the inside? He is going to defend, just trying to dissuade his rival, who's going to send it in deep. That might be too deep, though. He goes way off the course, and he might get a slowdown penalty if he's not careful out of there. And that might actually cost him a spot, as Donald Green will take 12th. Trippett did not get a slowdown, and Galais will wind up behind them in that 14th spot. Also, there's a nice battle between Lisa Eskridge and Alex Lidback that came down to a 1/10 of a second at the line between them for 8th position. Lisa coming out ahead. Nicely done by everybody involved. This was a great race, especially for a challenge. Some good stuff out there with Mehmet Karachai coming out your victor over Kevin Schultz, and Casey McDonald finishing 3rd. Still will get valuable points, but his winning streak comes to an end. Olin Murphy finishes 4th, and Jeremy Main rounds out your top 5. We were watching Johan Nye for some time, and he was not able to keep up with Main. He wound up in 6th, with George Poulos recovering to 7th, but that is not what he was hoping for after starting in 3rd today. Lisa Eskridge, as we mentioned, narrowly getting 8th over Alex Lidback, who was 9th, and Lashway rounds out your top 10.
Tom Crane came home in 11th. Donald Green just able to hold off Edward Trippett and Art Schwartz, rounding out your top 14 with Robert Galais. They're in the top 15, the last driver on the lead lap. Roger Claveau was 16th. Neil Urbesh 17th. Stacey Wada, Dave Douglas, and Aubrey Iyer, your top 20, with Chris Schulzen and Jack Stevenson 1 lap and 2 laps down, respectively.
Time just absolutely seems to fly by. We are already done with the first month of 2024. So make sure and join us tomorrow night, February 1st, for the challenge class for the club class at VIR. Sport class. I'll get through them eventually. One of them's correct. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Rachel and Ryan Bauer, and to our team tonight, DJ Cameron and Dougie. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.